Alrighty, welcome. How we doing? So look, here's what we're going to do. Basically, we're going to figure out how to how to turn your life around. This beautiful thing called structure, and more or less, not sort of knowing what the end result is going to be exactly, but knowing the general direction you want to trend. Um, and so the way we'll be doing that is putting out a template, basically a bit of a structure as to um, what in an ideal situation getting yourself up off the floor is going to look like. So um, I'm doing this for me. Hopefully there's some learnings that can sort of be taken out from this, and as with anything that you do in life, you just start. You just start, figure out what you've got to work with, and then from there tweak and progress and move, and come more into terms with obviously the general direction of things and what it actually looks like, right? So okay, so look, basically all I'll be doing is I'll be putting up a figure out how to screen record actually. Let's see. Windows key, Shift and R to start a recording, and we'll be doing this presentation. Fantastic. And we'll start that. So we're going to start to try and record as well as do stuff here. Alright, so I've got a screen recording up, and I've got this untitled presentation, and basically all we're going to try and figure out is cleaning up my life. Okay. Howdy J. Cool. So, yeah, beautiful. Let's add a slide here. Okay, so basically, let's call it an agenda. So look, we're figuring this out as we go along. Okay, so I'm both working on this sheet that will be here. Not sure how it works, but when I finally edit, this is one thing we're going to try and figure out is how to put me, this, talking to you, camera, in sort of a little corner, with the spreadsheet or the presentation behind it. So we'll figure out how to do that. That'll be a how-to video. But more or less, so we're typing in so the agenda. So first things first is the introduction. Intro. Why we want to figure out how to clean up own life. So, pretty simple. I'm doing this because my life, in some parts, absolutely sucks. There's a lot good to work with, obviously. I'm fairly healthy. I've got, a working computer that I can record things on. I've got a mind that allows me to think in this way, a bit differently about my situation. Understand the subjective and the objective. So I've got some tools to work with. But why it's not great at the moment is battling with some day-to-day functioning, some times where I'm not as enthused, as disciplined, as motivated in cleaning up my life. And so figuring out obviously how I want to go about learning to do that better, learning to put myself more in sync with who I am and where I want to go. When I really struggle with this, I struggle with anxiety and with depression and obviously just mentally not being at my best. And I work in this field. I'm not just throwing these terms around loosely. I am aware of the trauma that I have in my life and how I struggle to move past certain things. So struggle to get over relationships, struggle to come to terms with what has happened or what reality is and what isn't happening. And I get very involved in my own head that I struggle to get out of bed, I struggle to live and thrive in the day-to-day life, and I feel like a lot of the time I make excuses for myself, as most people do, that we push ourselves into a corner and then feel like we deserve to be there. And although that may be true in one aspect, it's not helpful to continue to think that that's the only aspect that's true, and that we all, in fact, do deserve love and forgiveness and to be compassionate to ourselves. And so, in doing that, it's about figuring out how to clean up what we're doing. So that's more or less the interest of why we're doing this. Structure is the next thing I want to talk about. What to do and when. Why? So, after I get into sort of this introduction, the structure of what to do and when, it's important to break down why in each category, and rather than maybe what I'll do is I'll structure, put this in and tab it, so we can do this, and then tab that as well. So what to do, when to do it. So what to do, copy, when to do it, why it's important. Okay, so the whole point of putting a structure out there is that it's like I am committing to a purpose, a result, a set of principles. It puts a schedule out there that says, here's what you should do and why you should do it. It takes a lot of the thinking, the guesswork. It's okay, if you know, yep, this is the next step I've got to take, well then that's simple enough to just sort of go, alright, well that's what I do now. And it takes, hopefully, a lot of the pressure. It's kind of like, if you are, if you're a sports player, a basketball player, and you just, you have to come up with, okay, well, what's the whole game plan? How do I, run the positions of all the different players? How do I come up with, my role and my teammates' role, and how to stop the opposition, and what time I need to get to the ground, and what I need to eat? And that's a lot to deal with, right? And that's very hard for one person to do. But if you have a whole team working together that says, look, okay, hey, Matty, your only job is to, just show up to the ground at this time. We'll provide the food for you, so you can have that proper nutrition before the match. And then, okay, yeah, here's your role. You don't have to worry about what the other players are doing. Here's just your role. Just do this on that for that quarter. Do this for this game. Play this way against this player. Whatever that may be. If it's simple and it's broken down for you, it's a lot easier to follow. And so, obviously, the problem with this is that yes, it is all something I have to do. I am the master of my own life. I am leading my own charge in this regard. I'm not telling anyone else. I'm not having anyone else tell me what I need to do. It's just more so. I don't know why this screen record stuff only happens every. It does like 3 minutes, and then cuts out a recording, and I have to start the recording all over again. So I don't know why it does that. Very annoying that that's the case, but here we are. So basically, if I can do a lot of this admin work in one section of my life, so that it's not every day that I'm, going through heuristics of do this, so that I can get to here and there. But if I sort of sit down and have a moment like this, where I sit down and plan, and I say, okay, well, here's the overarching picture, here's what we want to get to, and why we want to clean ourselves up is the number one priority is that I have a lot of potential, and I don't want to not hit that. And when I feel like I'm not hitting that, that sinks me into states of mental ill health, and I want to avoid down there. It's okay to stick mostly in the operating space where here's your absolute high thriving. You want to aim to achieve that. Here's the low threshold where it's pointless getting out of bed and there's no point really living, and you live most of your life in this chunky space. And if I can get to operating in here, I'll be happy with that. Less time down here, more time up here if possible, but if I can just sort of stay in that space, at least that's something, right? So keeping that as the priority, it's like, okay, clean up what you need to do, figure out how to get there. So that's the structure of what we want to do, and then commit and submit. And I will get a bit more into that when we sort of get to that section. Okay, so that's the agenda. So one, the why. So adding a new agenda here, why. Purpose of it all. I have a lot of potential. I believe that. I believe that I'm not a waste of space entirely. Not perfect, not everything that I need to be, not everything that I want to be, and then, well, maybe that's something I need to challenge. Maybe I'm everything that I need to be. I have all the tools, all the skills within me, or the ability to obtain said skills to reach the target of where I want to get to. So that's realization that there is a lot of potential. A lot of potential. I want to avoid feeling like a waste of space or a sack of shit. Okay? I don't want to feel that way. That is how I feel sometimes. I don't want to feel that way. Let's make sure that we don't. Okay? You won't always hit that. You won't always hit that. We won't do it. Space. But again, I can't predict where I'm going to be, 10 years from now, or even a year from now. But what I can do is pick the general direction that I want to trend in. So I can't pick the exact destination, but I can pick the general trend. And if I wanted to say a year from now, I don't want to be, oh my goodness, why is this a common theme? Right. Press record, do the recording, hopefully it all records, start recording, 3, 2, 1, I gotta figure this out, but hey, we're all figuring it out, aren't we? So a year from now, if I want to be not struggling to get out of bed, feeling like my life has no meaning, feeling like I'm not living up to any potential, if I feel like I haven't quite nailed it, right? Well, that revolves around a few purposes. So, good physical health. Okay, I want to feel like I get up and I'm in my body and I'm awake and I'm aware of where I'm at and I'm happy with the physical routine that I'm doing. Whether that's playing sports, lifting weights, resistance training, aware of what I'm eating, stretching a lot, feeling comfortable and happy, not feeling like I'm sore and let myself down and not trying, okay? So good physical health is a good place to aim for. It's something tangible that you can look at every day and go, okay, well, what's the go? If your muscles are always sore, are you working them too hard, or are you not having enough, nutrients and rest, recovery, and that's all kind of stuff that I'm not an expert in. But it's like, well, I am in a physical body every moment that I exist. Perhaps that's something I should figure out, or at least educate, move up on. Good physical health. Aware of my mental state, whether I'm thriving, feeling on the up and up, whether I can notice I'm trending towards a possible decline, because my mental health does this a lot, and I'm aware of that. There are days when I'm absolutely thriving, everything's great, and I'm a pleasure to be around, and there are times when I focus on the wrong things, everything sucks, it's tough to be near me, and I get that from both a personal point of view in how I've observed myself and feedback from other people. And so when you take all that in, you can sort of really figure out where the truth lies, and just being aware of the mental state, of aware of the season that I'm in. Knowing that is going to help me be more in touch with myself. It's going to help me feel like I'm not a complete waste of space. Okay, so good physical health, good mental health. And financially sound. It doesn't have to just be, that I'm, a billionaire or a millionaire or whatever, but just able to look after myself. Currently in that stage, it's there. I'm not, reliant on funds from other people and things like that, but I have been in the past. I have been very immature with how I go about with spending habits and just not planning for the future. And that would definitely be something that I'd like to continue to trend towards, at least in the next year or so. Okay. And I think looking after those things are all good ways I can avoid feeling like a complete sack of crap. Okay. So the agenda, the why of it all. I've got potential. Let's live up to it. I know what I want to avoid, and it's based on some of those principles of looking after yourself physically, being aware of where you're at mentally, making good decisions, for some of that security, obviously like financially and in your community, other places like this. Okay. I don't know why I do screen record. And it doesn't work for us, but who knows? We'll just keep trying. That's all we can do, right? Let's just keep trying. So I have a lot of potential that I want to live up to. I want to avoid feeling like a sack of shit. Feel like I'm a reason to live. Not that I have a reason to live. We all have reasons to live. Populate the earth, be company for other people, be economic contributors. Anyone can find reasons to live, but whether they actually speak to you personally is a different story. And this is why people often feel like that's not the case for their life. But to myself, to feel like I am a reason to live, like there is a reason why Matty J exists. That's something that I want to feel. And there are certainly times that I don't, and there are certainly times that I really struggle with that. So to feel like there is a reason to live that keeps me going is great, but it's fleeting, because you might hit that reason to live and then you question yourself as to do what, what happens when you have completed that task. You've been that thing. But to continually evolve that thought into your identity, that I am a reason to live. Being me, being this person that exists, being all the things that I stand for, what I contribute to, how I add to the situation that I'm in. Sort of hits me personally on that higher level, as I'm sure it would with many people, to feel like, there's a reason to live. So have potential to know what I live up for, to avoid feeling negatively like I'm a waste of space. Being aware of some of those tenets, and feel like a reason to live. That's sort of where I want to be, every day. Continually living up to that potential, continually moving forward in the right direction, to not hit the lows, and to genuinely feel like a reason to live. So validity. So highs, lows, and validity. Alright, so reach for the highs, avoid the lows as much as I can, and continue to maintain currency, maintain validity in my existence. All right. Some people find that in religion. Some people find that in volunteering, community work, in figuring out who they are as a member of a family unit, things like that. Those are all very valid, but for me, figuring out what exactly that is, because I am some of those things sometimes, but not all the time. And so again, it's not just picking a reason every day, but to feel like a reason every day. And perhaps that comes from picking a reason every day, but we'll find out as we continue along in this journey. So, intro, structure. So what we want to do when we do it, why it's important, okay? This will be where, so, structure. How do you take away auto numbering? Restart? No. 2. Okay, I don't know, that's how it works. Structure 2. Okay. What to do? Oh, I'm so not great at doing this, but we'll figure it out. Okay. Structure. What to do? When to do it? Possibly. So. Structure. What to do? So. I feel like the structure of what to do is going to be based on giving myself purpose every day. So, purpose every day. It's like you have to. I'm big on purpose, meaning, and direction. Things that you do have purpose. What you're doing is speaks to that validity that we've spoken about before. Okay. Purpose every day. The general direction of it needs to trend in the way that you want to go. And to me, that means that the tasks that I do, the way that I fill things up, they have meaning. Okay. So if I look at this and I say, look, one of the things I want is that physical health. Is that let's commit to looking after the body that you're in. Okay. That's eating healthy. That's getting good rest, working out, making sure that you're not doing too many dumb, silly things with your body, but you're more or less on the right path with it. Okay, so let's say there are some things that I need to fit into every day. Okay, so what to do will include physical exercise. It includes going to work / having a job / career / external focus. Just some things I'm running off ahead, and we'll work through these as we move through it. Purpose in downtime and rest. Purpose in knowing how to explore parts of self / be creative and passionate passionate. Okay, so basic tenets of what we're like. Purpose every day is you're inside your own physical body. Make sure that you are physically there, physically aware of what we're doing. Okay, physical exercise. Physical exercise and being active / working out. Okay, and that's that commitment to knowing shoulders tense. Are your legs hurting? Do you need to stretch more? Do you need to go for a run? Are you feeling too anxious and worried? Not because of what's going on in here, but because of what's going on in the rest of it, right? Have you given yourself a reason to get up and get out of bed? And it's like, you can say, oh, nah, I don't want to do it today. The weather's not great. Don't want to go down the street. Don't want to go for a run. I don't want to play any sports. But if there's that commitment to sort of going, this isn't about what you want to do, it's about what you have to do. Because physically your body needs to do X, Y, Z, right? We are adaptive systems. If physically you need to sit on a couch all day because your body is used to being incredibly sedentary, then that becomes standard practice, that becomes the norm, and it becomes really hard to get out of that. And then you become a couch potato, and then you feel like you're wasting your life away. So if I go, okay, well, I don't want to feel that way, what do I need to do? You need to make that commitment. So it needs to be something like, you get up at a certain time every day and you go for a walk, or you get up at a certain time of day and you do your stretches, or whatever, or when you finish work for the day, you go for a run, or you go and you lift heavy things, you do some resistance training, or whatever it may be. You make a commitment to, this is when I do that task. And right now I'm at a stage of life where I'm more or less entirely in charge of my own schedule. Obviously there's some commitments that you have that involve other people. So like, I've got mandated work hours that I need to be at a certain place at a certain time, so I won't be working out during those hours. But outside of those hours, I have the flexibility to say, well, I can do it earlier, I can do it before, I can do it after. Or there's obviously other things like, I'm not even sure if these recordings are going to work. The amount of times I'm not even sure these recordings are going to work. The amount of times that I've had to try and put them in together and whatnot. But anyway, this screen recording, figuring it out as we go along. It's more so like, how do we anticipate what we're supposed to be? Well, you can't. You can just sort of try to trend in the general right direction. And so it's like, while I'm in charge of my own schedule of doing that, trend it in a direction where you are committed to doing something. And I think because I have this flexibility where it's like, I can work out before work, or I can work out after work, or I can sleep in today, or no one's forcing me to get up and do X, Y, Z. That gives you too much wiggle room, too much leeway to say no. Whereas if it's and this is why I put in at the end where I have my final spiel of the commit and submit, is that it's more or less, not that I want to get into winners or losers, but if we simplify it to like, it's more of a loser attitude to make excuses and not follow through with what you've told yourself you'll do, as opposed to more of the winning attitude, which is you do it because you've been tasked with it, and that's what you do. This Matty J, this is who you want to be. This is what you do. You get up and you do this, and it's like it's committing to that mindset. It's submitting to the fact that I can't do this on my own. I can't find my own ability to say to myself every day, well, if I have this reason to not do it, well, that's good enough reason for me to listen to today, because I'm not that disciplined. I will fall short in that regard. But if it's more or less, hey, this is what the great video has told you, something you have to submit to it. You have to commit to this higher ideal of yourself, of where you want to be in a year's time. Well, then you've got to believe that and move towards it, right? So if, when we get to the when, it's like, you basically I'll pick a time, and it might just be like, hey, look, 6 a.m. during the middle of your weekdays. There's 5 days a week you're up, and you do what you need to do in the morning to get yourself dressed and ready. But within 10, 15 minutes, whatever, you've had a drink of water, you've gone to the bathroom, you've made your bed, and you're out the door, you're at the gym, and that's sort of like maybe a commitment you need to sort of make. And then you're in your body for the first hour and a half of the day, committing that energy, that mental space to, and you might just, go for a walk on the treadmill at the gym, or you might do a few leg exercises, or, something low key, or you might really push yourself hard. We'll figure it out on the day as you make a training plan for yourself and as you work through with this, but you still have that general commitment to, well, this is the time of day that I get up and I do this. And you believe that and you follow through with that, and that's who you are. And that's the type of person that you want to be, and that's the type of person that you know is going to trend in the right direction, the direction you want to go. So that's what I got to do, right? So then same thing with going to work, having a job, career, an external focus, something outside of you. One, obviously, it gives you purpose in that day. It gives you an occupation. It spends your time in a way that says, this isn't just about me and self-gratification and sitting on a couch and being an existence, but using the skills and traits and abilities that I have outwardly. That's what you do in work. That's what you do when you are communal with other people. That's what you do when you talk and work socially. You put the focus not on here, but out there, and that's the task to work towards. That's the task to try and achieve, and that's what it is that you're trying to go and do. So, if we're going to now break some of these down, that would be physical exercise, being working out, be in your body. So, daily workout and exercise / sweat. So the daily workout / stretches and exercise sweat. That is a task that is loosely defined enough to what the specifics will be, whether that's going for a run, a bike ride, a long walk, or yoga, or playing sport, whatever the specific may be. That's a different. It's not as specific as to you have to get up and go for a 5-kilometre run every day. I'm not committing to that, but I'm committing to you're going to do something every day that requires you to sweat, to change the way that your body breathes, how you feel, the stretching that you get into it, the movement of muscles in different ways. That's going to allow you to get into your body and into a different headspace that isn't just sitting down existing like you do when you're resting. Okay, so that's the commitment. That's what physical exercise, and whether you get this also with you team it up with other benefits like playing sports, playing footy, playing basketball, something like that, or whether it is getting up and going for a run every day. It's a different way to look at things. Okay, so going for work, having a job, career. So during work days, go to work and be present. So commit. You have a job. People have trusted you to show up for said job and to do said job's work. How hard it is to record the screen so often. So reward those people for having that faith in you. During work days, go to work and be present. Be aware of where you're at. Don't feel like it's a sleep. And it's easy said than done. It is a massive slog. It is a massive part of your day. It is huge amounts of work to mentally and physically be present in a space that you would much rather, in some aspects, go, look, I wish I could, do this in 2 hours or 4 hours as opposed to 8.5 hours of fully committing to this task. And when you include travel time, lunches and discussions and the few conversations that go over here and there, it's 9 hours of your day where you are tasked with doing something very specific to someone else's use of you. You know, you are in a state of servitude. That even though you would much rather say, hey, look, well, I'm going to spend 8 or 9 hours doing something, I'd rather be recording how to help yourself videos, how to clean up your life videos, or studying something of interest. And in a way, I am studying something of interest because it is a field that I work in that I'm not an expert in. I know a bit about it, obviously, and I feel like I'm okay at it, but you can always get better at it. And that's part of the goal of what you want to work towards here. That you feel like you are en route to getting much better at it, right? And so I feel like committing to going to work during the work days and being present there just sort of says, hey, do the best job that you can when you're tasked with it, because who knows how long you'll be doing this for. You know, realistically, I don't want to be doing this job specifically in like 10 years from now, right? There is a dream and a vision that I have that I need to perhaps put up bigger, make more visual to what I want to work towards, and I would like to do that, but I need to obviously be aware of the steps to get there, and it's not an overnight process. And one of the parts in doing that is continuing to get stronger in the field that I work in. So getting up and making that commitment to actually be there every day while I can. So get up, go to work, be present, learn what you can. I feel happy with that thought, okay? Downtime and rest. So specifically aware of the need of our own body to have the time required, but not overly so. So this is the toughest part, where I get into habits of being too restful, having too much downtime. And downtime, you know, for the purpose of this, will be sort of explained as no general task is the purpose in which that time is being spent accomplished. Nothing that I feel I need to be or do or have done. It's time that I've allowed myself to zone out. And downtime, it could be to read a book, it could be to watch some TV, it could be to listen to a podcast, it could be to just sit on the couch and stare at the wall. You know, but it's not about focusing on getting assignments done or getting ready for work or, you know, driving to a footy match. Or so. It's not, there's a task that needs to be accomplished during this time. It's genuine, yeah, get ready to rest. Get ready to enjoy just decompressing. And the problem is I spend too much time decompressing. There's no time to do something. I'm all flat. You know, I've got no push, no juju, no motivation to get up and do something about it. So it's being aware of when I have had a big week or a big day to go, alright, I'm going to relax and shut down for a bit. And relax and shut down for a bit, and focus on nothing in particular. And then rest, getting the sleep that I need. So if I am going to get up and physically commit to doing something, plus then I am also going to go to work for several hours a day, and say we're just talking weekdays here, right? And then there are some other things like explore parts of self, where I can be creative and passionate. So like recording these videos, if it's like, you know, I'm going to do too many commitments between getting food ready, going to work, getting ready for all the things, doing those activities, recording these videos, being creative, doing art and crafts and stuff like that, and you know, doing study and stuff like that. Well, then it's like the tasks that I have every day are going to be extremely difficult to do all those things in the hours that you have and still fit in the appropriate amount of time to rest. So it's learning how to make commitment to training your body to be tired at the times it needs to be tired so you can go to sleep, and then get enough good quality rest so that you can wake up and go to do it all again the next day, right? So how I'm going to figure that one out, I'm not entirely sure, because that's not something I've really been good at. There are times when I'm just like, oh, I'm going to bed at 9 p.m. so I can get up at 6, and that means I've got in bed for an hour or so of reading and decompressing, and I'll be asleep by 10 p.m. Which gives you 8 hours till 6 a.m. to get up and run through the next day. And it's like, on theory, on paper, that sounds great, but it's like the times that I'm really tired. Sometimes I'm absolutely exhausted by 7:30, and so I go to bed early, think, oh, yeah, it's great, I got 12 hours of sleep, or whatever, 10 hours of sleep, and then you fall asleep till midnight, and then you wake up, and then you're up for several hours after that, going like, oh, like you're throwing your body clock out here, like what are you doing? So figuring out, doing some research on sleep, doing some research on how to keep yourself busy enough and thriving on all cylinders, and it's stuff that I've never really looked into that I will want to look into. So, so on here we'll go with research this space, okay, and same with job, career, external focus, study, because there's a few courses that I'm looking into at the moment. I'm studying a PT course actually, to become a personal trainer, so that requires a lot of physical work, and figuring that out obviously, and then I'm also doing some accountancy stuff and some training and education stuff. So I've completed the training and education one, but it's like now it's just sitting around doing what with it. So it's like I want to actually implement that into figuring out how to do more videos sort of like this, where I can put down structures and trains of units of competency and say, here's what you've learned, here's what you're trying to work through, here's how you can figure this all out, and then obviously feel like I'm training and educating myself to train and educate others. So it's just part of having that sort of external focus, but it's also during the workday is going to be present being there. And again, so that's another task that I'm timing. It's just like, gee, you got a lot going on between adhering to a daily structure that involves getting up early, being physically active in your body, then going to work, and it's like, okay, well, there's already like 11 hours of your day, plus getting your food and nutrition in there as well, plus then also you want to do some extra study and have downtime and rest and explore parts of being yourself and being creative and being passionate, which is we haven't even spoken about yet. It's like, wow, that's a big day. So it's like, well, how do you do it? I think it's just like with anything, right? Is you just chunk it up into little parts of where everything is, and that's kind of what you're doing here. Is you're figuring out what the structure looks like. You've got all the ideas of what it is and what you need to focus on, but how to actually implement and go, this is the commitment you need to make, is what levels are you going to attribute your work to all the things you want to do. So very quickly, exploring the parts of self, be creative, passionate about things. So this is learning stuff outside of study. So recording things, like I said, this video, right? Doing a screen recording, doing a video recording, how to edit them to sync them up with the audio, and run through obviously all those aspects of what that looks like, to create a final product. I know it's not going to be great, but learning how to start with it means, again, you've got somewhere to work with to move towards. You go, okay, yeah, this part was easy, this part was difficult. It could just be a setting that's like, this is why your screen share stops, your screen recording stops after 3 or 4 minutes every time. That could be something I could figure out, right? So learning that. Is that a setting I've missed out on? It would have really helped to figure that out before trying to do 40-minute, hour-long discussion to yourself and having to record it, 15 times. That's one thing I want to look into, right? And then as well as, art projects. Call them PCEs, so personal creative endeavors, so whatever that looks like. So yeah, there's a lot of difference between drawing, podcast, this recording. There's a lot of like, I want to get stuff out of me. I want to be more social in this space. And again, I'm not saying that it's the sale and end all of what my career is going to look like, but if it's a step in the right direction to go, why do I have this interest inside me to do these things? Is it just because I've been externally brainwashed by having all those outside things, that I view happen to me, go, oh yeah, that could be something I could do? Or is it something to me that said, this is actually a space that you want to work in? This is why you're running this big dingus channel, is because you don't know how it all works, but you feel like it's a space you want to get involved in. And you're still sort of like dipping your toes in at this stage, and you haven't fully committed to making it, your full-time 100% endeavour. And that's okay, because you do have stuff like this to work on, figuring yourself out, still going to work, still trying to build a career in the outside world, not just up in here. And so as you try to fill those things in, it's like, okay, well, cool. So that's generally the structure of what today looks like. That's the structure in terms of what to do. So structure, what to do. Maybe down here, when to do it. So let's just start with 6 a.m. wake up and get ready and do exercise. So if I do this, when to do it, let's just commit to weekdays for now. So 6 a.m. wake up, get ready to exercise. Now, am I a morning person? It's like I will naturally sleep in until most of the time between 7 and 9, about 8 o'clock. Most of the time is just when I sleep in till. Whether that's just because it's been years of practice going back to high school, waiting until the last possible moment to sort of get up and go and pack the day, or it's because I am up until, midnight at times, I'm not too sure. But I do genuinely feel better when I'm awake and feeling accomplished so when I'm at my physical and mental peak of feeling like I've done something well, I've gotten up early, I've made my bed, I've gone for a walk or stretches or to the gym and broken out of sweat, and then have come back, showered, had breakfast, all sort of within the first couple hours of the day. And so it's like you've ticked off a whole lot of you've done something today really early on. And that's not just a me thing. A lot of people feel that way. But I know that because I am one person who feels that, there are some people who are just indifferent to it, couldn't care less, can wake up and do nothing until midday and not feel like they've wasted the day. But I'm not one of those people. If I haven't sort of done those things, I kind of feel like, oh, what the hell am I doing here? So it's good for me to know that about myself. So if I sort of commit to, this is just who I am, this is who I have to be, then I've got a direction to move towards, I've got a task to try and accomplish. I'm happy with that. So wake up and get ready to do exercise. That's what we'll aim for, okay? And so then if we say we've got wake up and get ready, do exercise, and get ready for work. Then that leaves us at 8:30 a.m. work day. So that's 2.5 hours between my alarm goes off to I'm up, I've made the bed, I've gone and exercised, I've stretched, I've showered, I've cleaned myself, and usually have some brekkie or some nutrients in ya and you feel loose-ish and goodish about getting the day done, and then 8:30 start your job. Then that obviously includes the travel time to there, which isn't too far away, which is good. But it's obviously like you do your work day, and you do that until 5 p.m. So by 5 p.m. you've been up for 11 hours, and you have accomplished a large chunk of, you know, if we shoot back to structure, you've done those two by that. Okay, cool. So then, gotta be a better way for doing this. Just gotta be. My goodness. You know, within the first 11 hours or so, and then twice a week, you'll then be going to footy training, which just zonks you out. Okay. But rather than just make it that specific, let's call it. So 5 p.m. Usually, you know, between whatever it is, you know, so between 5 and call it 8:30. It gives you 3.5 hours to do your afternoon tasks. Okay, I call them after work tasks, which include footy training, which is the drive there, the socialising aspect of the talk about it. But it's like, you know, you wrap it up by 8, so you can drive home, get home by 8:30. Okay. After work tasks, which is footy training, PCEs, study. Okay. Cool. 3.5 hours for that, which puts you at 8:30. Okay, which is then really getting towards the you've been up and active for most of the day doing things. So if it's a footy training day, that's easy enough to drive out to where you got to drive to go to the training, do the physical exercise again. So that would be a real sort of tough thing, whatever. And then you'll be coming back here to mostly do the decompressing side of things. Or it's after you finish work, you do your after work task, which is whether it's PCs or study, where you commit to going like, okay, well, I need to commit to studying the things that you want to study, putting the time and effort into some of the creative endeavors that you want to do, and it's submitting to doing that, right? And so that kind of comes down to, okay, well then where's your downtime? Where's your, and it's like, well, maybe in the day to day you don't get so much downtime as you would, or as you previously have been used to. I think that's kind of the thing, is that you've had a lot of belief in yourself where you force yourself to tell yourself, you force yourself to tell yourself that this is who I need to be, someone who relaxes a lot, plays the drums a lot, sits on the couch, watches TV a lot, stares at a wall, whatever, because you know you need to be that person who does that. And I think what the point of this is to challenge, is that who you are going to be forever? And if it is, that's okay. You'll just have to know that's who it is. That's just a part of who you are. But if it's just a personality trait that you have allowed to creep in, you know, it's like, is anyone really born a meth addict? Or is that a choice that someone makes along the lines that then becomes your occupation? And so, using that analogy, was I born to be someone who needs a lot of downtime, or is that an occupation that I've taken up and continue to uphold? So I think the purpose of this commitment is to challenge that ideology, which means from 8:30 p.m. till, as we get to 9, will be your decompression and downtime. And that only goes for half an hour. you've given yourself a half hour every day to say, for at least this next week, this is all the time frame that you're working with here, is just this next week. I can't commit to a year from now. But I can commit to a week's time. 3 days even. Do this for the next 3 days. And you do it for that long and you go, yeah, I could do that. And you can do that for 3 days, you can do it for a week. And you can do it for a week, and you do it for 3 weeks. You know. You don't need to do, I just did it once, that's great. I've accomplished that. I can write off that for the next month. And then you end up doing this month a month. And it's like, once a month you're always just resetting. But if it's, commit, do this structure for 3 days. Do that 3 day structure. You got it. If you can roll that into a week, roll it into a week. If you need to take a couple of days off of going like, did I feel better during that time? Yeah, I think I did. Or, no, I just need to be lazy. This is who I am. We'll figure that out. But moving that through, I think, if that's sort of the time frame you look at, then decompression and downtime, give yourself half an hour every day. So from 8:30, you are in relax mode. That could be watching TV, it could be just be sitting on the couch, it can be crying, whatever it is that you need to do to look after yourself. And then come 9 p.m. bedtime routine, and so that includes your journaling every day, which journal. So journaling is writing therapeutically, getting stuff out of your head, stuff that you've experienced or thought about, how your day went, that kind of stuff, your daily log. Teeth shower, clean up. Clean up at the house, that kind of stuff. Bedtime reading, or listening to podcasts, whatever it's going to be. And so then 10 p.m. is lights out, and I think you will be exhausted, and especially when you're giving yourself half an hour of compression, decompression and downtime is going to make you feel like, it was just such a big day of busy doing stuff. And it might be the case, but I do feel that there's a theory that that's not going to be how it actually ends up. Is I feel like it's going to be like, if that becomes the new norm, that'll be okay. Because yes, there's a possibility of burning your candle out at both ends, and yes, there's a possibility of missing the mark in terms of like, am I living a life that I actually feel is enjoyable? And it might not feel that way to sort of start with, but knowing that you're training in the right direction, I feel like that's going to add to some of the motivation you need to do it, and then you'll have your rest and recovery, longer time on weekends, as you feel more physically in your body and how you feel and how you eat and in charge of your life. It's during the moments of life, rather than have those split-second thoughts of, I'm not going in the direction I want to go in, I'm not doing the things I want to do, but rather having more of the moments of, yeah, how you doing this, Maddie? That's going to lead to a much more positive feeling, where your life does feel like you're training right, like you are holding yourself to a standard and you are becoming the person you want to be. I think that's the way to sort of generally look at it. And so then if we've got structure, why it's important, well, that's simple, right? You have one life. Be who you want to be. I want to be a, useless drugger who has no commitments who doesn't accomplish anything, who spends their entire life watching B-grade movies, not having a care in the world. That would be great. But I do care. It's very hard for me to not care. It's very hard for me to not feel like I have potential. It's very hard for me to feel like if I were to spend my life doing those things, that I wouldn't be letting myself down somewhere along the lines, which is why I have to commit to being better. And when I say being better than the standard I have allowed myself to reach at times in my life. This is why it's important. Because I can't escape from that. I have tried to. Multiple times. Through different relationships, through different life endeavours, through drugs and alcohol, through getting involved in certain community groups or clubs, or not getting involved in them, not taking burdens on, being busy, being not busy. I have tried the gamut of life to avoid living up to my potential. And some of those things do allow me to live up to a potential. And some of those things just eat away at me on the inside. And I realised that I spent too much time being allowed to be eaten up on the inside. That I need to commit to living this life of potential that is fulfilled. Because I only have one life, as far as I'm aware. And I don't feel like this is being spent the way that I want to spend it. I'm surprised at who I am. I feel like I don't know who I am. My first piercing was an eyebrow piercing. I don't know why, because that doesn't feel like that's me. Yet it was. It's small things like that that make you feel like you don't know yourself. But that is who you are. And I can see this a lot in past relationships, where I think, oh, I would never say that. I would never act that way towards somebody. But you did. There's a reason that we get. There's a reason that you're doing this right now, trying to clean up your life over and over again. Because that is who you are. So you look at it and you go, well, if that is who I am, am I just born this way and I'm stuck with it and that's who I have to be? Or is the human a dynamic creature? Is Matty J someone who can change, make change, stick with it, make the change the new normal? We'll find out. And this leads us to our last slide. Commit to it. So I'm committing to giving it a go for the next 3 days. Or so, maybe a week. It is who you are, and that's the mindset that needs to change. This is who you are. You're going to do this. So even if I'm not, it's like till 2 a.m. tonight, you know, for whatever reason, get my body clock in order, trying to figure out how to make this all work. 6 a.m. tomorrow, I'm awake, I'm up, I'm being physically active at the gym. I go to work and then I'm figuring out, follow through that schedule that we spoke about. So I'm going to commit to it. I don't know what it'll bring, but I know that it's not something that I have done goodly committed to for a long time. So I'll figure it out. And the submit aspect is, I know that there is something greater than me. I am not yet living up to that potential. I'm submitting to the idea that there is something greater than me, as in that life doesn't exist just for me to exist, that I want validity, I want a reason to live. I'm not yet living up to that potential. I'm going to submit to the idea that there has to be a way to get there, and this way might be it. So I submit to that idea. I commit to living it out, having structure in your life, having purpose, having the tasks that you do have meaning, trending in the right direction, and taking this as a part of your identity as to who I am, who I'm going to move towards. And it might lead me very much in the wrong direction, but I won't know until we get there, in which case then you figure it out. But for the time being, I feel like there's a lot of positives in trying to do this, work this way. A lot of people I've spoken with, a lot of experiences, anecdotes that I've had in my own life, a lot of literature out there that suggests that this might be it, a good way to go. So I'm going to start cleaning up my life. Thank you for being with me on this journey. That was a hell of a long video, but we'll figure it out, hey? So we'll see a year from now whether it's worked or not. We'll go from there, I guess. Yeah.